Cherokees were created in the mountains of North Carolina. But at one time we had to be associated with them, and they say that's the connection, is lacrosse and stickball. Because stickball to the Cherokee people, it's a game nowadays, but it wasn't always that way. It used to be an alternative to war.
I feel like the Cherokee history is intertwined with Black history. We learned that we were actually a part of the Trail of Tears and everything else that they went through, and then some of us are even Cherokee in our heritage.
Big fire burning in the middle of it. 2 men in the village whose job it is to keep that fire burning 24 hours a day. Don't ever let it go out. That's our connection to the Creator.
It was interesting. It was eye-opening, really, and to see the amount of comparisons you can make between the African American and the Native American struggle. I mean, again, comparisons not the same, but comparisons altogether. Like you could still find, you know, things that were similar.
Yeah. And to follow up with that, something I was always told even before this trip even began with the Cherokee, considering that there's Cherokee lineage in my family, as well as probably many others. The Cherokee and a lot of African Americans, there was a lot of integration. The most obviously impacting part of it, and this is near the end, of the museum are the statues that depict the Trail of Tears. One of the ones that stuck out to me the most was the little boy. His mother was sick, and he didn't really know what to do. And then the next morning, he woke up, and his mother would not wake up. His aunt pulled him away to tell him, "We need to keep moving." Obviously, it shakes you.
The wall with the beads, and so the white beads showed how many of the Native Americans had survived the Trail of Tears, but then the colored beads showed how many had fallen. When I look at the colored bead, I was like, that is one life lost. And I count, I go 1, 2, 3, 4. But I just imagine like the amount of life and potential life that bead had.
I never get scared.
We should have just been.
We are John Hope.
Our relatives had come to Oklahoma to get away from racism, violence, and death. In fact, my grandfather, yes, just barely made it out of Tennessee alive.
So Black Wall Street was an entrepreneurial mecca that existed in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in a segregated Black community called the Greenwood District. It was called Black Wall Street because of the incredible entrepreneurship that existed in this relatively small 35 square block community across the tracks from and adjacent to downtown Tulsa, white Tulsa. The Tulsa Race Ride happened in 1921 on May 31st, the evening of May 31st through the night and into June 1st. And it's the worst of the so-called race riots in American history. We know that between 100 and 300 people lost their lives, 1,250 structures, including businesses and homes, were destroyed. Here in Tulsa, another contributing factor was the rise of the KKK, as well as one of our particular media outlets called the Tulsa Tribune published a series of inflammatory articles and editorials that really fanned the flames of hostility in the white community against the Black community.
In this old nigger town were a lot of bad niggers. And a bad nigger is about the lowest thing that walks on 2 feet. Give a bad nigger his booze and his dope and a gun, and he thinks he can shoot up the world. All these 4 things were found in Nigger Town: booze, dope, bad niggers, and guns. That's the beginning of a longer editorial, and I'll spare you the rest of it.
Walking through, I could tell that the space had been designed very purposefully, and I felt like the very beginning statue, which had humiliation, hostility, and hope, was really powerful. So at Reconciliation Park, forget the name of the woman who took us through, but she was really, her energy really made me engage with the park a lot more.
And as you go around, you'll see the Race Riot newspaper article. As you look further, you'll see actual buildings burning.
When we're going around, she kind of tells you, you know, they weren't allowed to just go freely into the streets. when the race riots were happening and even after the race riots occurred, in order for them to get through safely, your hands had to be up so that they wouldn't believe you were a danger to them or shoot them. And you were walking for miles sometimes. You were walking just to go to an internment camp.
The park lady had us hold our own hands up.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even for 5 minutes, but some of us were already tired. Some of us were already holding our hands like this. Some of us even dropped our hands just a little low. And she's like, that will get you shot.
Yeah,
and you're like,
that will get you shot.
Serious.
We come here to remember those who were killed, those who survived, and those changed forever. May all who leave here know the impact of violence. May this memorial offer comfort, strength, peace, hope, and serenity.
At the memorial, it was we were coming off of a long day, so at first I think everyone was just walking around looking at things, and then somebody mentioned this is where the building was. These are the literally charred remains of the building.
Each chair represented a life lost within that bonding period. And the bigger chairs were adults, and then the small chairs were the children. And that got to me.
And this is Main Street for bowling. You see here on the left their municipal building, which was leveled by an earthquake that came through here about 6 years ago, and thus their newer public safety building.
I was excited to go to bowling because it is still predominantly Black, and they are very proud of everything that they've accomplished up to this point and still are accomplishing.
First thing I thought of, I'm sitting in there looking at this rodeo demonstration. I'm like, oh my God, if my dad was here.
So bowling was definitely different than what I was expecting. I was expecting to roll into at least a modest-sized little town, and it was not that.
The rodeo, one of the most exciting parts. I was ready for the trip. That's the main reason why I want to go here, just to go to the rodeo. Like, that's why I signed up for the trip. I'm like, I'm gonna see Black cowboys, woo! First time got to ride a horse, loved it. And then the guy told me, he was like, you're like a natural, you can get this. I was like, really? So I'm like, now I'm thinking, I am definitely going to buy a horse.
Thank you. Oh, we got a little pro up here.
I'm too short.
Because what we did was, I'll take him and I'll do everything.
I think we can learn perseverance and grit from bowling and being content with where we're at.
One thing we need to learn from bowling for sure, don't ever kill the spirit and stay as a community. Don't leave and just go off and do your own. You need to come back to your community and build onto it.
BCC has honestly become a safe haven for me. The research tour created, in a sense, a family because we were all together learning about difficult things. We were all together struggling, you know. We were all together being emotional. We were all together being happy and laughing. We were all growing together.
BCC is like amazing. And then also the fact that they give you this opportunity to go on a research tour, like you have to go.
You don't find places like this everywhere where you feel comfortable. I can feel like I'm welcome, you know. And I truly, truly appreciate Ms. Thomas and Mr. Bill and Ms. Juanita, everybody that is behind the Black Cultural Center and was behind this tour because they create that environment for us.
The fact that I was just in this group is just blessed. I'm so glad I chose to be on this trip. It's really something of invaluable. You can't take it away. You can't replace with anything else in this world.
It's a little bit indescribable. For me, especially for me personally, it's like beyond my expectations.